I always loved having Casey Stern on the program. I love the national perspective, the humor, the insights. It's another round with Casey Stern, former NBA on TNT and NBA TV host. We're going to get the national perspective on the Warriors and tackle everything else that's going on. Media days happening this week. We're going to break it all down next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and YouTube. You can follow Casey Stern on Twitter at Casey Stern. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at DogSurfRoadshow. Casey, I'm going to quickly promote your podcast and YouTube show, Unfiltered, which people can subscribe to. All they have to do is search Casey Stern to find it. I'm going to start with this. Another Twitter user, I'll find his account in just a second, but he brought up to me, because on yesterday's show, I said the Milwaukee Bucks are probably the second best team in the NBA, but they still don't compare to the Warriors. To me, the Warriors are hands down the best team in the NBA. They to me remind me a lot of the 89-90 San Francisco 49ers. Let me correct it. The 88-89 San Francisco 49ers. The 88 version started the season 6-5, finished 10-6, won the Super Bowl. The following season, they went 14-2. And had what to this day still stands as the biggest blowout in Super Bowl history. They won 55-10, also hold the mark for most points. I think this year's version of the Warriors equates to that 89 Niners team. They're going to blow everyone away. I don't think anyone's even close to them. I'm going to explain in just a second why the Milwaukee Bucks, despite being the second best team, still don't sniff them. You're hearing me say all this right now, Casey. Am I crazy? Do you hear some of it and agree with it? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I'm a Giants fan, so you got to bring up those Niners teams. I mean, really, this is all I got to hear about is thinking about the greatness of the Niners. And I don't know whether or not the Warriors could beat John Elway and the Broncos, but probably. Look, I look at it. I look at it this way. Yeah. I'm with you on Milwaukee, and I've said this to you before. I think they're the second best team in the league, and I think the Giannis quotient of him in an offseason where you could tell he's been grinding with that chip that he always has, where there's like a way that he found a way to get better. You just know that that's going to be a thing. So I'm all over the Bucks. As far as the Warriors being, that much better than everybody else, I think if they're depth guys and the young kids take the steps that we expect them to, the answer to that will be yes. I think if they stay healthy, the answer to that is yes. Those things aren't guarantees, but I've said this to you before. I'm not a huge believer in the Clippers till I see everybody healthy on the floor.
Same.
And that's the reason why, kind of the caveat. Because look, I haven't always been a John Wall guy, right? But with everything that he came out with the mental health and all the things that he's been honest about, now I've gone from, it's funny how things shape. Now I'm rooting for him, right? Individually, I'd like to see him perform well. They've got a lot of guys like that are outside of Kawhi and PG that are interesting players that all have stories to tell that could bump them up a notch and make that team the team that the Warriors have to deal with all year. I got to see them healthy to see it. But I'll buy it. If they're healthy, the Clippers are healthy, they're dangerous. If they're healthy, they're dangerous. They are.
Agreed. But I mean, keep in mind, this is now year 4 of the Kawhi Paul George experiment. And we haven't seen anything so far. I've never seen a player come back, superstar or not, from a torn ACL and just take the league by storm. It usually takes a year to get that swagger back, get your legs under your feet. On paper, you're right, man. The Clippers do have the potential makings for something dangerous, but potential versus reality is two very different things. I'm gonna explain the Milwaukee Bucks roster in just a second. For anyone who thinks that the Bucks have a legitimate chance of being the Warriors, Drew Holiday, love him. Okay, I'm not going to hate on their big three: Drew Holiday, Giannis Antetokounmpo,
Middleton. You can't.
Middleton, amazing.
You can't.
When you leave those three, Pat Connaughton,
he's a winning player, but if he's on the Warriors, you'd like him. He's a winning player, not a great player.
He's all right. Bobby Portis, crazy eyes. I like him. I like him. He's a good role player.
Yes.
Grayson Allen,
Yeah, he's a pain in the ass. I hate Duke people in general. Like, really, I just can't. I just can't. And like the kicking and all this stuff, I can't with Grayson Allen. But you had me at Bobby Portis, and I like Connaughton, by the way, for those who don't know. I mean, this dude could have been a baseball player, a baseball player at the major league level. Like he was drafted. He was drafted to play baseball, and he was a pitcher and could have been a major league baseball player. And he's in Notre Dame. So Connaughton, Portis, you have me. Meatloaf said 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I don't want to hear about Grayson Allen. Keep going.
Well, and just to put in perspective, Pat Connaughton averaged under 10 points a game.
No, he's okay.
He's going to be 30 years old in January. He's okay, but he doesn't like scare me. He's okay. And then Wesley Matthews.
Come on.
You got Serge Ibaka. I mean, if the guy plays
in the right role, if he plays, Serge can be helpful.
But my point is, that's it. That's your team.
I get it.
So when people, because some people are kind of coming to me like, well, dude, the Bucks, they won the championship 2 years ago.
Giannis, though, right? So it's like, I'm not saying he's LeBron, but LeBron had Gauskas and Bobby Gibson, and then J.R. Smith and Amon Shumpert. So we've seen dudes get carried and dragged along in the NBA. Kevin Durant almost did it 2 years ago with even the hapless Nets and nobody really healthy on the team. So I think Giannis counts for more. So does Steph Curry. But Giannis counts for more than just a guy. Like he's like, you know what I mean? He's like more than one. When you count the names, you said big 3. Any big 3 that has Steph Curry is like a big 4. Any big 3 that's got Giannis is like a big 4. So we got to be fair with that. It's a little bit weighted more than just a really good player. Dude's as good as anybody in the league.
Agree with you on all that. The game that I saw last year, which really shifted my opinion on the whole Warriors Bucks, potential matchup. They played each other in March last year. The Warriors did not have Draymond Green. He was still rehabbing that back injury, which we now know is actually very serious. That's a cause for concern this season. But nonetheless, without Draymond Green, the Warriors easily and handily beat the Milwaukee Bucks on national TV. It was a Saturday night game on ABC. Both teams are taking it very seriously. There's very select few regular season games where the teams do wake up and they do actually understand that there's a message to be sent here. And in that game, the Warriors won 122-109. Giannis's plus-minus was -26. And Stephen Curry in that game decided to become the distributor. He only scored 8 points that game, added 8 assists, and the Warriors again beat them with ease. That game was all I needed to see to know that this Warriors team could easily beat the Bucks. They don't scare me. Here's my tier of the best teams in the NBA. Let me know what you think about this. It's the Warriors, Bucks, Grizzlies, Clippers, Celtics, and then the rest. Your thoughts?
Hey, look, the Celtics. Look, let's talk about the Celtics. Okay, last year bit. All right, that's number one. We've talked about that before. They overachieved. They did. I mean, that's the sum of the Celtics as a team and the way they played the game of basketball defensively was better than the individuals in terms of parts, right? The Gallo thing doesn't work. You got the Udoka situation right now, and I was talking about this with David Aldridge earlier today on the Unfiltered pod, which you can catch that episode.
Promote that real quick, by the way. David Aldridge came on your show today.
Yeah. So I had David Aldridge on today. You can get that episode we went through. He was at Nets Media Day, which we'll definitely get into here. He was at Nets Media Day yesterday. So we went through all of that. And when we're talking about the Celtics, one thing that I said to him, and I'm curious if you kind of feel this way, I'm watching these players and their responses at Media Day. They don't know the story either. They don't really understand what exactly has happened with Udoka either. And that's a tough spot. Jaylen Brown was sitting there answering questions, and basically they don't know the answers. That's not a training camp that's about camp. That camp is about these guys sitting there like in high school, like at your lockers, gossiping about what the hell's going on with the franchise. That's not a good look. Don't be surprised if the Celtics get off to a rough start this season and then maybe find their way in the middle. But in terms of the standings, that could hurt them. So the Celtics, to me, I gotta see play. I gotta see what happens with this now.
I agree with you. By the way, is it weird to you that all of a sudden people stopped talking about it the moment the truth started to leak out a little bit? It just died. The moment we saw. Yeah,
I think people wanted to shit on the fact that he got the same suspension that Sarver did, even though one was from the NBA and one's from a team, so it's different, right? And they wanted to jump out on Twitter in the world of social media and compare and say, hey, look at what you're thinking about in terms of misogyny and harassment and everything else compared to this. And how is that not that it's that big a deal, but I've been cheated on twice. Right? We've all been, you could go through that without being a coach in the NBA, right? And nobody suspended the person that did it to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, But as soon as people got a sense of what happened, you're right. It got quiet. But I wonder about those players because you tell me, I thought the best element of the Celtics last year was the way they played team ball. That team was a unit. They were a unit defensively. They were definitely much more about leaning on each other. Tatum really couldn't carry them as much as he wanted to. Now you got a team that, I don't know how they are with the new coach. So I don't know what he's all about. I don't know how tied they were to Udoka in terms of how responsible was he, right, for that team element of basketball they played. Celtics are going to be one to watch.
Yeah, and when we come back, I'm going to delve into that a little more because there are some nuggets of truth that have leaked out. And last Friday, I was with Rick Barry doing a show, and he had sources in that building, and he revealed it on the show, and it's pretty crazy. We'll talk about it in just a moment. There's a lot more to talk about. The Brooklyn Nets, Casey, you're a New York guy. By the way, the chat is open as well. People love you, dude. Here's another comment.
These are my cousins. That's my aunt and my uncle and my cousins.
And then Theo 1892 or Flo 1892. Casey, people love you, man.
That's my Aunt Flo, not to be confused with the other Aunt Flo. This is a family show.
It is a family show. First, got to give some love to a longtime sponsor of this program, BetOnline, and more specifically, BetOnline.net, which is your number one source for football betting information this season. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every team you can find. Real quickly, how are your New York Giants doing, man? I mean, I don't like your quarterback at all. I don't know how your team is 2-1. I think, is that right? Or the 2-1?
Yeah, 2-1. They lost yesterday. Like, here's the thing, though, to be fair to Daniel Jones, and not to get on Duke again, but just to be fair, this dude his offensive line plays like they got ordered to give a code red to their own quarterback. I mean, it's a joke. I mean, he has no time to throw. I think he led the team in rushing yesterday. And their wide receivers, now Sterling Shepard just went down with an ACL injury yesterday, which is unfortunate. So now they're even worse, but they got no wide receivers on this team. Kenny Golladay complains all the time about not getting enough snaps, and then he got thrown a pass last night in the fourth quarter and dropped it. So do I think Daniel Jones is the greatest quarterback that's ever lived? No. But when you give quarterbacks who make it to the league in any manner a chance to throw the ball and stay in the pocket, they will make some plays. They don't get there by accident. It's how backups have success all the time, even if it's in snippets. I don't really know how to judge a guy who's got no time to throw the football. He's got no time. Now, it's not like Trey Lance where they just ran him in like, he's Jon Snow facing the White Walkers and to go get injured. I don't know what the hell that was. I mean, my God. What a joke. That's terrible. That was tough.
Well, first of all, it does beg the question, would Kyle Shanahan still basically turn his star quarterback into a crash test dummy if he didn't have Jimmy G as a backup? But my question to you is, if you could go to BetOnline and bet, who is the better QB, Jimmy Garoppolo or Daniel Jones? Who are you taking and why?
I mean, I don't even think the odds matter. I'm taking Jimmy Garoppolo as a better quarterback. But can I take neither? Like, I don't know necessarily that either are very good. But I just want to be fair because, look, I've seen some bad. Everybody, crapped on Eli Manning all the time, right?
I love
the guy. The guy had 2 Super Bowls and 2 Super Bowl MVPs, right? So, unless you're like 3 or 4 quarterbacks in every era, everyone else sucks. That's how we are. I mean, we give up on think about it. We give up on everybody, but we've seen backup quarterbacks have success at different times just because they're with the right offensive line and have good weapons. It's a little bit unfair when you got nobody to throw to and no time to throw. I don't know Daniel Jones, doesn't matter that he's a Duke football player, which really, I mean, have you ever heard of any other Duke football players? No. There's no one. Like, even Kentucky, it's like, because Kentucky, I'm like, it's a basketball school, but then I'm like, okay, they had Lorenzen, the fat QB who was, and it's okay. It's no problem. I say this, he's my size. It's fine. It's not like I'm shaming anyone, please, but it's 2022. But like, Duke, no one. I have no idea. You can't tell me anyone that played at Duke and played football other than Daniel Jones. So at least he's got that.
Well, if that was a bet, I'm sure BetOnline would have it. They're the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including Major League Baseball. The playoffs are just around the corner. MMA, boxing, golf. Head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it's where the game starts.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 daily fantasy basketball show on the planet. Literally, it's free and available wherever you get podcasts. So is Casey Stern. You can follow him on Twitter at Casey Stern. DMs are open. Ladies, drop the
Why
man
do
a
I got to
message.
be free and available? Now, in what terms? And free, again, you're fired as my agent. As we discussed this before. It's just like, free agent's never really free. I mean,
Not
let's
free
be
for
honest,
work.
Okay,
but
thank
free
you.
otherwise.
Thank you.
But
Thank
free
you.
otherwise.
Yes.
But free otherwise.
Yes. You.
So you know what? I teased a segment coming back and I already forgot what I was teasing. That's how awful I am today. Do you have any idea what I was?
Well, you said we would get into the Nets. I know that. I don't know what else.
Okay,
you
but let's
said.
talk about the Nets then. Kevin Durant. And, well, first, Kyrie Irving. My God, man, this guy comes out and says that because him deciding not to get vaccinated cost him $100 million. Kevin Durant comes out and says that him and the team were just on different pages, and that's why he was calling for the heads of Sean Marks and Steve Nash, basically saying that the organization was not headed in the right direction. He's not wrong. Your thoughts on the Brooklyn Nets fiasco and their media day attributions?
Well, first of all, if you didn't see today on day 2 of camp, Markieff Morris had the maybe the best quote from any of the camps so far, where he said, and there are videos you could check out on social, he said something to the effect of, "It's no big deal. I broke up with my wife twice, and that effing worked, so we'll be fine." Like, pretty much that was his whole thing. Let me give you a couple things. Number one, Kyrie Irving said that it's the first time that he's ever been embarrassed on a basketball floor when they got swept by the Celtics. I don't want to make you spit out your soda, but wasn't Kyrie embarrassed of the way he played for the Celtics? I mean, to me, like, he should have been embarrassed the way he played for the Celtics. Forget about playing against them where he got swept. The thing about Kevin Durant, to me, that was interesting is he had an answer that, and I talked about this with David Aldridge in the pod today, and, his response to it, which is right, all athletes at KD's level are kind of delusional. They are, because they have, like, such an extreme sense of ego, right? Kevin's is matched with insecurity. I'm adding that, which makes it kind of an interesting, tag team. He's sitting there and he's Jekyll and he's Hyde. But Kevin Durant was asked about if he understands that the Net fans are skeptical now that he begged out of there. And he said he doesn't understand what he owes Net fans after everything he's done the last 3 years. He didn't play for a year at all. Like, didn't play at all. Then he tried to drag them the whole way, right? And he came close, right against the Bucks, 50-point game. I mean, it was PJ Tucker probably still can't sleep from it, but he couldn't do it. Last year, they get swept. I don't think that Kevin Durant, and I don't think Ben Simmons in a different extent, and I don't think Kyrie Irving, in all three in different areas, I don't think that they look in the mirror and understand that they should be humbled. All three in different ways. With what has gone on in the last couple of years in their careers and all different, I see none of that from any of the three. If you told me all three they could win the East. Is there enough talent on that team? Because, look, you got Ben Simmons freeing up space for shooters like Seth Curry and Joe Harris, right? In addition to Kevin Durant. And you got Kyrie, who does the same. I mean, think about how many double teams you got when you got guys going to Kyrie or to Kevin Durant. There are enough shooters on the outside against the East that the Nets could be and should be, you could even say maybe, the winners of the East. But because I don't believe any of the three of the guys actually understand what's happened in their role in all this, I'm not buying. If I did, I'd pick them to win the East. I would.
I'm totally with you. I almost feel like the Nets and the Clippers are very similar and just these star-laden rosters, but to put it together is a whole other story. By the way, I remember what I was going to bring up after the commercial break, which is that Rick Barry.
Tell me. That's right. The information. Go ahead. Tell me.
Yes, he broke the news that Ime Udoka was having an affair with a Celtic staffer. I think it was like a vice president of operations. His wife. And the part that still has not come out yet fully is that there was at least another wife of someone high up that he's also having fun with. So it makes sense. When you hear about that, it makes sense why Ime is remorseful and contrite and why he was happy taking that year off. And that's crazy. By the way, I want to steer back to the Warriors. Rick VB writes, who will get more minutes this year, Kuminga or Wiseman? I'm going to say Kuminga. I think I'm pretty confident in saying that. I think Kuminga is going to get 20 to 25 a night. Wiseman, it depends. It might be 5 to 10. It could be also 20 to 25. They need Wiseman, I think, a little more. Although I don't know. I guess it depends. But your thoughts on those two?
Yeah, look, I'm in the same. I'm in this. Somebody asked if I'm still free and available. It was only 4 minutes ago. What do you think? What do you think? Someone signed me in the last 4? Yeah, somebody hit me up in the DMs in the last 3.5 minutes of this conversation. And Flo, what did I tell you? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, look, I think when you look at the situation with Kuminga, I more buy into the upside, what we've seen already, what we know, and because of the versatility of the positions that he could play, the opportunities of where he fits in the rotations on the floor, where Wiseman has more of the one-trick pony to him. So, if he does not show that in the minutes he's given that he can be valuable and fit in, he kind of finds himself in garbage time and damage control and end of a half and foul situations and stuff like that. Kuminga, I think, gets worked in right away because he's advantageous because you can move him around in the rotation, right? I mean, I just think it's different that way.
Yeah. People were asking also about which players are going to be playing all season long, which will be getting rest. I think Draymond Green, safe to say, is going to be load managed a decent amount this year. I doubt you'll see him in back-to-backs. Same with Stephen Curry. You want to save those two for the postseason. Klay Thompson's an iffy one. He looks good. He looks ready to go. Based on precedent, based on experience in terms of observing this game in years past, do you think Klay Thompson will be playing a back-to-back nights, or is he going to be load managed like the other two? What are your thoughts?
I think he's going to want to play. I think from what we know of Klay, this is a guy who is a chip on his shoulder. He's going to come out, I believe, with something to prove. That, last year was, hey, I proved to myself I can get healthy and fit in and contribute and help make us a champion. Now, I think he wants to come back and prove he's Klay Thompson. And I think those are two different things. I think he's dedicated and determined to now proving he's still Klay. He's not this version of Klay. He's still Klay. So I expect him to want to play every night because of that. Now, if I'm the Warriors, I'd be careful because I need to make sure that he's healthy. And as the year goes on and the stretch goes on, you want to make sure that the important games he's there. But you tell me your thoughts. I look at Klay and I think last year he proved he can get back on the floor. He could help the team and contribute to a championship team. But I think he wants to prove he's Klay Thompson. I think he looks over and says, okay, yeah, Jordan Poole, really, that's nice. But I don't think you understand. Like, I'm the dude that rolls with Steph here on this team, right? I mean, honestly, like I think Klay Thompson's got somebody put in there. He wants the ball out in the chat. They're right. I think he looks at it that way. He wants to prove he's still got it. Is the way I look at it.
I wholeheartedly agree. I've been saying on the show for weeks, maybe months now, that if you set an over/under for his points per game average this year at 23, I'm betting the over. I think this is going to be a career year for him. I think he's motivated. When you talk about chips on the shoulder, Draymond was talking about that in media day and about how there's still plenty of chips, even though they certainly lost a lot of those chips by winning the championship. But this team's hungry for more. They're focused on legacy right now. I want to shift gears again, just because we are well deep into we're still in the off season. I mean, I know technically media day started. They're practicing again. The Warriors are going to Japan, but until that regular season starts, there's not a lot to talk about.
No.
But Brian Windhorst, famous ESPN reporter, right? Is that his? Yeah. And it was prescient. I mean, he did call that with the Utah Jazz. But he also sent out a random tweet yesterday where what stuck out to me was he called them the title contending Suns. I laughed at that because I do not see the Suns as a title contender this year. And then today, DeAndre Ayton was asked if Monty Williams reached out to him at all this offseason, and his answer was no, flat out. And then Monty Williams, he gets addressed. Tell the audience if you don't mind, like that whole story, because you're on it and your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so they asked Ayton, whether or not since Game 7 he had heard from Monty Williams, and Monty Williams said, Ayton said that he had not heard from him whatsoever. And then they said, are you excited about being here? And his response was, I'm here. which is very telling, right? So then I can't remember which reporter had it out first. He's like, okay, he even tweeted like his own context. This may be a problem, right? So then they went to Monty Williams, which is what you do, and they asked him, and he said he didn't contact any of the players in the offseason because he wanted to give them time to detox or something like that. Like, you're going to tell me Monty Williams was on the phone with Chris Paul? Anybody who knows anything about Chris Paul knows that Chris Paul probably called Monty Williams 7,312 times over the course of the offseason, and I give him credit for that. I don't mean that in a bad way.
Right.
I mean, you know, look, for all the people who say I'm a hooper, right? The Kyrie thing, Chris Paul wants to play basketball. Like, that guy wants to win. Like, that dude probably was up Monty Williams' ass about what went wrong in Game 7, why they didn't win the series, and why they, right? And I mean that to a compliment, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear about, like, you know, Monty Williams didn't talk to anybody. Basically, you know, DeAndre Ayton a little bit isolated. I'll say this, and I said this to you before about the Suns. I like them better than you do because Devin Booker is a dude, right? So when you're talking about one of the best players in the world and a guy who, to me, people realize don't think about it. He's not old. Haven't been around that long.
Correct.
He's still got that incline part of him where you could see him still continue to dominate and take ascension to an even higher level. He's already one of the best players in the game. And you've got Chris Paul who can win. And I like Mikal Bridges. Like, go back to the Bucks side. Cam Johnson, like, some of the Suns guys can play. Like, some of their others, they've got some, their other pieces can play. So, you know, and I don't know what you're getting out of Ayton, but I think when you look at the Suns roster comparatively, just to kind of give an example to the Bucks that you brought up before, you know, Mikal Bridges is a better player than Pat Connaughton. Like, they got better side kind of, you know, players and catalysts and those kind of guys. So I like them better than you do. I don't love them. Do I think they're a 3 or 4 seed in the West? I do. I don't think that they're lower than that. That's fair.
I just don't see him as a title contender. And there's a lot of issues. First of all, they did nothing this offseason to bolster the roster. You're right. Cameron Johnson, I do like him.
I like him. Yes.
But Cameron Payne's all right. He's a serviceable backup point guard. But Chris Paul turns 38 this year. Jay Crowder did not even show up to training camp.
He's gone.
I mean, he wants a trade, and he's disgruntled, and they have no leverage. Their biggest offseason signing was Damian Lee, a player that was just a fill-in for the Warriors the last couple of years. You know, he's most notorious for being Stephen Curry's brother-in-law. I do not see that Suns team as a contender. I'm with you, though. Devin Booker is a baller, man.
I love Devin Booker. Devin Booker.
Lights out.
They're a good team. By the way, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm a Knicks fan, okay? Now, can I have the Suns? Are you serious? Can I have the Suns? Like, they're a good team. If you're a Phoenix Suns fan, you got a reason to go watch the game, right? They're a good team. So when you're talking about the Warriors and you're holding to like this high esteem, you know, there are going to be a lot of other teams where you're like, oh, I'm not afraid of them. But you got to put it into context. Phoenix is a good team. They're a playoff team. They're a top half of the West host a series team. And that puts you in the show. Yeah, that gives you a chance. So, you know, by the way, that's not the Warriors, but that's not, you know, they're not the Charlotte Hornets either. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not
I'm
like
with you.
They're a good team. The Phoenix is a good team.
And just to compliment them a little more, all it takes is an injury or two to other teams.
That's right.
And suddenly the Phoenix Suns are a title contender. They are.
That's
but on paper,
or
right
trade
now,
at the deadline. Don't forget how those fit in also. Right? But rosters changed during the season too.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. That is fair. Totes McGoats brought up something interesting here, and I love your insights on this as a national reporter. By the way, Joe Underhill, a name
Underdog.
No idea what that. I had no idea who that is. And then I meet Underdog at Media Day. His real name is Joe Underhill. I'm like, Underdog. Yep. He says hello, by the way. I love that guy. I love him.
My dude.
He's a good dude. He says hello.
He is. I worked many nights and NCAA tournaments and all that stuff. I mean, Joe's one of the best behind the scenes. Everybody sees him at the spots that, you know, with Shaq when, you know, on inside, but you know, he's one of the smartest guys behind the scenes and that kind of elevates what we do in terms of TV. And I know DZ with 3D, that's my guy. He lives literally 5 minutes from my house. That's my guy. So I'm glad you got to hang out and meet those guys as they sit there and fly in first class. You know, and I'm free and available.
All right. So, I can't drink soda with you, man. I can't. You're right. Okay, let's take the 2017 Warriors. That's I don't think there's any debate. That's the best version
I'm
of this
sighing
Warriors
because I see
dynasty.
the question, but go ahead.
Yeah.
read it. Go
So
ahead.
if
Yeah.
the 2017 Warriors hypothetically played Jordan's Bulls, let's say the 96 Bulls, they won 72 games. The Showtime Lakers, let's say the 85 Lakers are probably the best version. 87. Tim Duncan Spurs, let's say 2013. Do any of those teams beat the 2017 Warriors? And if yes, why?
Tim Duncan and the Spurs, no. And by the way, now we're back to the Suns kind of a thing, because it's like, I'm not going to shit on Tim Duncan's Spurs, because Pop in that group, I mean, you want to talk about understanding how to play, that you want to watch like basketball, like guys who know how to play, like, I mean, backdoor cut, playing defense, like doing all the right things, like maximizing every guy on the roster. I mean, those teams were not fun for anybody to play against, but they wouldn't be able to stop the Warriors, right? So, even though they're good defensive teams, but they wouldn't be able. And Pop, if anybody, it's a shame that we didn't get to see that kind of matchup, because I would have loved. I'm not saying he's Bill Belichick, but I would love to see Pop's, because of the way his teams are coached.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see him try and put together a game plan to try and match up against this team and see what that would have been like. That would have been fun, because he's such a worthy opponent in terms of, you just know that they're not going to beat themselves mentally. Forget that, right? Draymond can talk all he wants. Tim Duncan doesn't care. You know what I mean? I don't even know if Tim Duncan, did he have cotton in his ears? Like, I don't even know. You could tell. It was like he didn't even hear trash talk, because he just didn't care, right? So forget the Spurs. No. The Showtime Lakers, man, here's the thing with that team that would have posed an interesting problem. And that is, if you're looking at Magic when he was playing the point and sitting in a guard spot, his size would have caused a really big problem defensively and on switches for the Warriors, like a major problem, because of the way that their guards are.
Right.
That's a big problem for Golden. Now, it doesn't mean Golden State can't score, but I'm just saying that individually he would have caused a problem for them because of his size, right? I mean, Ben Simmons, not a point guard, but Magic Johnson played that role, right?
Yeah.
So at 6'9", to do that when you're sitting there with Steph and Poole and those guys, I don't know. Even when they had Gary, I don't know. In 2017, you're sitting there. Klay is the 2 at that point. That would have been a fun matchup. Anybody else want to sign up to see him defend Magic and vice versa? I mean, boy, that would have been fun. Boy, that would have been fun, right? And Byron Scott, right on the other side. That's what we live for, right? Like, that's the best part about being fans. But no, they probably, the Lakers don't beat them. Let's get to the Bulls. I'm a Knicks fan. Those teams killed me. They broke my soul. I saw Jordan put up 50 at the Garden. Michael Jordan, the best player that's ever lived.
Easily.
Okay?
Easily.
Scottie Pippen, I can't stand Scottie Pippen. I don't hate anybody, but if I did, it might be Scottie Pippen. I don't like him.
This version, I agree with you, man.
I really don't like him at all. I didn't even like him then. He sat down and, because Kukoc took the shot, like, get the hell off the bench. What are you, an idiot?
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you for letting the Knicks in, but I mean, as stupid as that, right? Dennis Rodman and Draymond underneath, battling for boards and all of that. Can you give me some of that? I don't know how that goes. I know every Warrior fan thinks they'd wax them, and every Warrior fan would be wrong. That's going 7. That's tight. That is really tight, because those Bull teams are not just Michael Jordan and a bunch of dudes. Scottie Pippen could really play. They had shooters at all times that could hit threes. People don't think about it, but whether it's the Paxsons or the Steve Kerrs, they always had guys that when Jordan was drawing attention that he can kick out to, that could shoot.
Right.
You think about the Horace Grants and the Dennis Rodmans and some of the guys in that era. They could board. They get out on the run. They're dangerous. In today's day and age, Jordan would be fouled a million times. You think you've seen, James Harden get fouled. How many times do you think Jordan's getting fouled? He'd be at the line 30 times a game in today's day and age. That's a 7-game series.
Yeah. I think the 96 Bulls to me are the best team ever. I really do. And then the Warriors 2017 and then so forth. I want to end the show on this note. 2 things real quick. People are talking in the chat about Jordan Poole, whether or not he's going to come back next year, pay Wiggins or Poole. I think the Warriors going to bring both back. I'm not stressing about it one bit. All indications are that the CBA, when the revised new CBA comes next year, draft picks will not be penalized as part of the luxury tax, which is going to benefit the Warriors tremendously. I'm not sweating that. Now, this question I wanted to address, and then we could wrap it up on this. Matt Brotherton writes, "Hey Cyrus, genuine question here. So I guess the rest of the questions are not genuine. How does Steph, after everything he accomplished last year, find the motivation to try hard this year? Are people like him just psychologically different than us mortals?" Yes. I'll put it to you this way. I've spoken to these gentlemen. I've been just, inches away from them at times. Here is my impression of Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson. I sometimes wonder if I pissed them off enough, if they would just flat out murder me. I really think they might. That there's a little tint of crazy in both their eyes. I don't think you cannot have that to achieve the amount of success they have on the basketball court. So when it comes to Stephen Curry, just like Kobe Bryant said about both the Splash Brothers, they're stone cold killers. They care about winning. You're not going to beat them mentally. And when it comes to Stephen Curry, he wants to put his name up there with those all-time greats. When he was standing there for media day surrounded by 4 world championship trophies, and he's looking at these things surrounded by it going, whoa, in his mind, he's going, I want 5 or 6 of these around me. That's his mentality. So I'm not worried one bit. Casey, what do you think about my perspective on the Splash Brothers and Steph?
You're talking about a guy who played at Davidson, came into the league, right? Of a great NCAA tournament, and still everybody's like, oh, okay, there's Dell's son, and he shoots much, right? That's it. And turned himself into one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah.
That dude is going to, after he retires, think he can go out and wax everybody, because you don't get to that level if you can't, right? They find motivation that others don't find. That's, if we say the Mamba mentality, that's a mentality of a star. And just to use an example quickly, another guy that, I like him personally, but man, he drove me nuts as a fan, as a Met guy. But Chipper Jones, I did a spot with him in Decatur down here where I am a couple of years ago. And he was talking about how his father told him early when he was a kid to skate the line between confidence and arrogance, and that you have to have a little bit of both to be a star when you're going to be in the public eye. That is what you're describing with Steph Curry. That's why they're humble because they can bounce back on the other side when they need to be. The Giannis thing, right? You put out the other day where he said, but you saw Steph, he truly respected it, right? But then there was some dog in the answer too. Right. And hey, look, I know who I am. Right. The thing that I said, DA said, they're all delusional, like in their own way. Steph's hungry. That's what. Now, is Andrew Wiggins going to be hungry enough? Different question. I'm not saying he's not. But those are the things that you have to question. A lot of times, guys who they're not on championship teams, all of a sudden they go win it. It may take 15 games in the season. Some of these guys may still be at the parade who have not been through it. But that's not going to be the case with Steph, Draymond, or Klay. No.
I'll say this at media day. JaMychal Green, in case people missed yesterday's show, is love him, and he's a monstrous human being. Like, I could easily see him playing the stretch 5. And the Warriors first round draft pick this year, Patrick Baldwin Jr., PBJ, is also a huge human being. The guy is not like listed as 6'9", but really like 6'7". He's a legit 6'9". He's a big dude. I like the Warriors 5 years from now. We could be looking at a lineup with like Jordan Poole as your starting point guard, Moses Moody, Patrick Baldwin Jr., if he fulfills his potential, Jonathan Kuminga, Wiseman, Ryan Rollins, their first-round pick, looks amazing. Dub Nation, you should be stoked, man. And Casey Stern accepts DMs, so please send those in.
Can I throw something at you for 30 seconds before you wrap? And then let's wrap with this.
Yeah,
you mentioned PBJ, right? So peanut butter and jelly. So let's wrap with this.
Okay.
We always hear about, and I hate the pineapple on pizza people. I don't want to hear it. And tomato's not a fruit.
Disgusting.
And I don't want to like any of that nonsense, right? But peanut butter and jelly is amazing. Do you know there are a segment of people who eat peanut butter on bread without jelly? That's a thing. Like if you go online, like there are people now. Just think about it. Like no liquids, like nothing. Just peanut butter on bread without jelly.
I've done that only because I didn't have jelly.
Yeah, but how do you eat that without you got water in your mouth at the same time?
Milk. Get some milk involved. You throw some honey on there. It was not by choice. Man. It was not by choice. The jelly was out, and I'm hungry. But I keep saying, man, I hear what you're saying.
Celery at that point, not on bread. Dry mouthedness is not my thing. Come on.
So cottonmouth, huge no.
Yeah,
all
no,
right.
I don't want that. Good.
No.
Good. Yeah. Hey, so who is that? It said is that Laura? Is that what it says? I don't have glasses.
Laura don't I know? Yeah, she lives in England. And by the way, Laura, thank you for posting.
Maybe
that
in England that's a thing, Laura. You can't be eating peanut butter on bread without without jelly, and Flo is dipping it in. Flo, I told Aunt Flo the last time we had a family party to stop dipping the peanut butter and jelly in vodka. Come on.
Just dip it in vodka, man. Problem solved.
No.
Oh my God. Laura says it is a thing on the island. What do they call that thing? There's a nickname for
Long
it.
Island? No.
You can follow Casey Stern on Twitter at Casey Stern. His podcast and YouTube show Unfiltered is available everywhere. You just got to search for Casey Stern, because while Unfiltered is a unique name, shockingly, there's other shows also called that. So you have
none
to
of
put
them, none of them hosted by an ass who puts it in caps purposely just to separate them.
There goes. Okay. Oh, real quick, Flow 1892 also adds, besides vodka in Germany, you also eat the peanut butter on bread, no jelly. See, that's why America's the best, man. There you go. I
mean, come on, man. Really?
Totes McGoat says peanut butter only. Wow.
No,
there you go.
No, I told you this is like a thing I just learned. I'm like, really? Like peanut butter just goes with jelly. Like unless there's like celery in it, like peanut butter on bread. These are the people who think the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like who the hell sliced bread and said this is great? No one.
Do you cut up bananas ever and put it in there too?
I've done that, and I like marshmallow. Like fluff is also is good. Oh yeah.
Ooh, there we go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm into that. I'm also very healthy, which is why when I said Jared Lorenz and the fat quarterback, it's only because we're alike.
I hope your kids are great, man. I hope your puppy's great.
Thank you.
Hope to have you back on soon.
Anytime. Man.
Are we done? Anything you want to promote? Or
not really. Somebody just put up Flo. Now Flo's eating a peanut butter chicken sandwich. So if I don't go call my family and get on a conference call on Zoom, we're in trouble.
We're out. Peace out. Later, everyone. Bye.